All right, is just about noon Central Time on Wednesday, and that can mean only one thing. We're here for the live Q&A with your friend, your pal, number two in your program, number one in your heart, Wally Bressler. Hope you're all doing well today. Pardon my goofy and corny intro. Always a pleasure to have you join me. Some great questions on tap today, so let's get right into it. Number one, how do you balance the need to be assertive and persistent in sales with being empathetic and understanding of your clients' needs and concerns? Great. So, first things first, this is the first thing I thought about when I saw this. People who are salespeople that feel uncomfortable asking certain questions, it's not that what they're asking is aggressive, it's just that they're not comfortable asking it. Right? There's aggressive in sales, there's pushy in sales, there's trying to get somebody to make a decision, there's, not even asking questions, but telling people, God, you're making a stupid decision, or if you don't do this right now, you're going to miss out on the opportunity, or if you leave today, I can't give you that price. I mean, that's all old school, hardcore, high pressure stuff. However, as a salesperson, it is incumbent upon you to go ahead and ask for the order, to continually stay in touch with people and keep moving along in the process and keep checking in on timing and motivation. Okay, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking people questions as you talk to them on the phone or meet with them face to face that make sure that you're always moving forward in the right direction and that you're spending time with the right people. Right? So, you have a conversation with somebody and they say they're 3 to 6 months away, or let's say they're 6 or months more away. You can always ask them, what's important about that time frame. Great. Let me ask if we could solve X problem and do it between now and 90 days rather than 90 days to 180 days. Will that work for you? If they say yes, great. If they say no, say, okay, I completely understand. And then you stay in touch with them. And then you check in another month or so, or whatever the time frame you would check in on. And you check in again. Hey, the last time we spoke, you were thinking about doing X, and you're waiting until this time frame. Is that still the case? It is. Okay, great. Has anything changed? Another great question is there anything that would allow you to do this sooner? Is there anything that would keep you from doing it at all? Like, I always think you have to be empathetic to other people's situations. And empathetic is when you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Sympathetic is when you feel badly for them. And so while it's important to put yourself in other people's shoes and understand where they are, it's also important to go ahead and educate people, ask questions of them and see if they may be able to do something sooner, if they may be able to pay more for something, if they're willing to go ahead and make an adjustment in their approach. I mean, I think all those things are important because the answer is no if you don't ask. And I think if you do it asking with their needs in mind, their goals in mind, and not make it seem like you're asking for your own benefit, right? Learned a long time ago there's a difference between internally and externally driven questions, right? Externally driven questions are questions that are geared towards how much you're going to get paid and when somebody's going to close so you can make it work for you, and really just asking questions that serve you versus asking people questions that benefit them. Okay, and so it's a distinction, but it's an important distinction. Okay, so anyway, you got to be persistent. I think you always have to ask questions. The way you ask the questions certainly can impact how well they're received. Also, making sure that the questions are geared towards getting closer to doing business with them and not questions that are going to pressure them into doing something they don't want to do. And I think if you can do that and be elegant and eloquent, you can be persistent, you can stay in touch with people without putting them off or feeling like you're being too aggressive. How do you tailor your sales approach to different types of clients or industries? Well, the first thing you have to realize is that there's complex sales, which are sales that could take years, months and years for, huge pieces of technology or machinery or systems and stuff like that. And then you have simple sales like telemarketing where it's one and done. I call, we pick it up, talk it up, hang it up. So obviously, in my opinion, the longer the sales cycle, the more consultative you have to be, right? I mean, on a telemarketing call, you can be consultative, but it's not always easy to do that because you don't really get a lot of runway to ask a lot of questions. As you move closer to like an inside sales role when you're on the phone, where you're talking with people, building a relationship, you get more consultative. When you sit in front of somebody, you're even more consultative. And if it is a much longer play, like for instance, think about a mutual fund industry. If you're a big company, and let's just say you're moving over your 401k plan, the whole thing, the administration, the escrow, the management, the education. That's a huge move. That's not just a decision you make in a week. That could take months, sometimes even years to do. And so that sort of sales process is going to require lots of relationship building, lots of question asking, lots of discovery, lots of demonstrations, lots of face-to-face meetings, lots of meetings with people at different levels, If it's a one and done thing where I'm coming in and I'm trying to sell somebody a vacuum, okay, it's consultative, right? But at the end of the day, I'm asking about problems and I'm solving those problems pretty much right there. I have a great, great friend, really one of the best salespeople I know. He used to sell vacuums. I think it was for Electrolux a long time ago. And, he rarely walked out with a vacuum sold, and because he basically demonstrated where the issues were, they weren't seeing them about, hey, looks like you just vacuumed your carpet, or he vacuumed the carpet with their vacuum, and then he vacuumed with his vacuum, and he still picks stuff up. Or, bed bugs, or all kinds of other things. But, that's usually a one and done approach. And so what you're doing in a one-day sale varies differently from what you're doing in a multi-day, multi-week, multi-month, multi-year sale. And the longer it takes, the more consultative you are, the more questions you ask, the stronger relationship you build, the more rapport you build. I think that makes sense, right? How do you handle rejection in sales and maintain a positive mindset? Jack Daniels? No, I'm kidding. Great question. So I think rejection, in my opinion, rejection is being told that somebody's not going to do something because they don't want to take what you have or want to work with what you have. Rarely in sales, at least, let me take that back before I say this. A lot of times we get rejected, it's not about us, if that makes any sense. It's their tastes, it's their likes. I'm saying? We may not have done anything necessarily wrong. They just might not feel that we're the best fit, that our product's the best fit and whatnot. Right? You don't like everybody, not everybody's going to like you. And so I think you have to, number one, you have to make it as impersonal as possible, meaning, them rejecting you has nothing to do with you. Right? I have this silly Brussels sprout theory that I came up with. I ask people, do they like Brussels sprouts? Some people say yes. Some people say no. The people that say yes love Brussels sprouts, but you've got to cook it in bacon and oil and crisp it with onions and pour maple syrup on it and basically change the molecular structure of it and do everything to make it taste good. Well, you know what? I can do that with a shoe and make it taste good. So, but either way, like Brussels sprouts or don't like Brussels sprouts, does it have to do with the Brussels sprout or does it have to do with the person? Has to do with the person, right? Not everybody likes Brussels sprouts. Not everybody likes me. Nobody's going to like you. So the first thing I think we have to realize is that rejection isn't always about us. Okay? In fact, it's never about us per se. It's about whether or not that person likes us as a person and likes our product. And not everybody's going to like us. So, you really have to distance yourself from that. As far as a positive mindset is concerned, I think you have to look at whatever you do as a long-term plan. I learned this a long time ago. It was the box of life. If you drew a box, and then you said, okay, this one sale falling apart. If you look your entire life, all 70, 80 years of your life, this 1 minute where your deal didn't go through, how much of that box would it take up? And it's hardly the speck or cover of the tip of a pen. And so I think that's how you have to look at things. Like rejection, even on a couple of transactions or whatever you're doing over a period of time, isn't necessarily representative of what's going to happen over the year. And you've got to remain positive, not just through these, but also on a regular basis. And so part of that is personal development and really reading and building and growing your mind and becoming super, super powerful in your brain and in your heart and in your soul, so that even though you may have a bad day or a bad week or a bad month, that you're not going to let it get you off track to the point where you're going to give up. Okay? But you have to look at it, rejection as a very impersonal thing and almost always not about you. Okay? So those are today's questions. Hopefully you found something in that. As always, you can hit me up. You can send me an email, Wally@nowtriggersalessystem.com, Wally@triggersalessystem.com right there. Or you can go ahead and hit me up on social media here or any place just by going @Wally Bressler. And we'll look forward to talking to you guys next week. Until then, be kind to yourself.